How's it going, you lovely bunch of bakers? Hope you're having a great day. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're making rough puff pastry again for cheese straws. So let's go to the kitchen and check them out. Ever since I made the Haitian Patties, I've been experimenting with rough puff pastry. It is extremely versatile and you can turn it into so many delicious things. And this will definitely not be the last video on which I use it. These cheese straws worked out perfectly. They are crispy, light and flaky, and cheesy of course. And yes, you could just make these with some store-bought puff pastry, but that's not fun. The ability of making rough puff pastry is a great addition to your baking skills. So let's get to it and see how it's done. For the pastry, we'll use some white bread flour. You can also use all-purpose flour. You'll also need some butter, salt, and some water. It is extremely important that your butter and your water are cold. If they're not, this recipe will not work, trust me. So keep your butter and your water in the fridge before you use them. I'll use two types of cheese for the filling. First one being gouda, or more correctly, gouda, and the second is parmesan. The only reason why I'm using these cheeses is because I had them in the fridge. Next time, I would choose something stronger than the gouda or the gouda. I also end up using some caraway seeds because I like the taste, and one egg for brushing. As for the equipment, we'll need a large tray with some non-stick paper, a bowl, scales, a dough scraper, a brush, and a rolling pin. With all that out of the way, we can start making our pastry. Grab a large bowl, combine the flour and the salt. You want to distribute the salt evenly throughout the flour before you add the butter. Once you've given it a quick mix, add the butter. And again, it must be cold. We want the butter to stay chunky, it must not melt. Drop your butter into the bowl and then roll it around in the flour. Make sure all the cubes of butter are coated in flour. As you can see, my butter pieces are quite large, and that's what you want. We want this mix to be chunky. So when you go to break the butter up, just break it up into 4 pieces, no more than that. This is not a biscuit base. I handle each cube of butter only once. I break it into 4, and then I move on to the next cube. And this is how it should look once you're done. Now we can pour in the cold water. Then grab the scraper and start mixing. You want to mix this until there is no more dry flour left. If you're struggling with the scraper, continue on by hand. Instead of kneading the dough, try squeezing it. We don't want to work it too much. We just want to bring it together, and as soon as you don't see any more dry flour, it is ready. This is the most crucial part of the whole process. All the resting and folding that follows is easy. The most important part is not to mess up the mix. Right, wrap up your dough and pop it in the fridge to chill down for 1 hour. A cold dough is much easier to handle. And a dough that has rested for 1 hour will be much easier to roll out. Give the table and give the dough a good dusting of flour. Then grab your rolling pin and roll it out to about 3 times its length. Be nice and gentle, don't press it too hard. And don't worry if it's a bit wonky. It will get straighter and straighter with each fold. Okay, this looks just about right. Now we can fold it up. Fold over 1/3 of the dough. Then straighten out the edge a little bit, brush off any excess flour. Then pick up the loose end and fold that over. Now we have created our first 3 layers. And now we need to roll it out and fold it one more time. Make sure that you roll it in the direction of the 2 open ends. And this time we are also rolling it out to about 3 times its length. Again, pick up one side, fold over 1/3, straighten out the edge, and fold over the loose end. And that's how we turn 3 layers into 9 layers. Try to make the dough as straight as possible. So every time you fold it over, straighten out the edges. Of course it doesn't have to be perfect, but having a nice square of dough just makes it much easier to work with. Right, grab your piece of cling film, wrap the dough up again and place it back into the fridge. It needs to chill down for 1 more hour before the next fold, which is also the final fold, so make sure your dough is nice and chill. And this is no different from what we did earlier. Dust the dough and the table with flour quite generously, locate the 2 open ends of it and roll it out in that direction to 3 times its length. You can start off by pressing it out with a rolling pin like this. It can help you roll it out more evenly, but it works either way. Once you have rolled it out to 3 times its length, fold it into 3, then roll it out again and fold it up 1 more time. The beauty of rough puff pastry is that you don't have to worry about breaking up the butter and breaking up the layers. It takes pretty much no skill to make this. And this is it. Now we can wrap it up, place it back into the fridge and it's ready to be used for anything. Well, we're making cheese straws today, so make sure your oven is preheated to 210 degrees Celsius, fan off, and that is 410 degrees Fahrenheit. Get your dough out of the fridge, it should be nicely cooled down and solid, dust it with flour generously, as ever, and now you actually want to press it with the rolling pin before rolling it. We want this to be nice and straight, so this is a good way of getting that result. I did not measure my dough, I just rolled it out to a large rectangle. You can make it thicker or thinner, it's up to you. I got 12 cheese twists out of this, or you could easily make more. Just cut the dough into thinner strips. But before we start cutting, first we need to brush the dough with egg all over. It will ensure that everything stays together. Next, sprinkle the cheese, but only over half the dough. You could use any cheese you like. I just chose parmesan and gouda because I had them in my fridge, as I mentioned earlier. And it doesn't have to be 2 cheeses, you can just use one type of cheese. Or whichever cheese you choose, press it into the dough with the palms of your hands. Now grab the loose end of the dough and fold it over, and then press it down. We really want these layers to stick together. So start off by pressing it with your hands, and then grab the rolling pin and roll the dough out a little bit. And here, you can also roll it thicker or thinner, it's up to you. I just use this step to make it nice and straight and to make the layers stick together. But you could even roll it out really thin, then cut it into many strips, and then maybe make little braided cheese muffins. The only limit is your creativity. The edges don't have to be trimmed. I wanted my cheese straws to be all nice and neat. This is how I get evenly sized pieces, without measuring. First cut the dough in half, then cut each half in half again. You get the idea. To give the cheese straws or cheese twists their shape, grab a strip of dough by the ends, and then twist them in opposite directions, 2 or 3 times. Once you're done, clean down the mess. They will not spread out too much as they're baking, so you can place them on your tray quite close to each other. I pressed the ends of the dough down into the tray, because some of the twists we're trying to unravel. We'll use the rest of the egg to glaze the straws, and I sprinkled a bunch of caraway seeds on mine. Caraway is one of my favorite additions to baked goods. You can use any seeds you like, or don't use any seeds at all, or sprinkle some more cheese on top. But whatever you do, get those bad boys in the oven, they'll take around 25 minutes. And once they're puffed up and golden brown all over, they're ready. Just check the bottoms. If they're still white, flip them upside down and bake them for a few more minutes. But these are looking pretty good. And that's how you make cheese straws with handmade rough puff pastry. And there are so many more things you can make using this pastry. You could even make this with whole wheat flour. There will be a video about that. I'm not saying that it's going to be healthy, considering all the butter that it contains. The whole wheat does give it a different flavor and a different texture. But regardless of which flour you use, if you made it right, it should be nice and flaky. If you do bake your cheese straws or anything else, don't forget that you can share a picture on our Flickr group. You'll find a link to that down in the video description or in the pinned comment. So what do you think of this recipe? What's your favorite use for rough puff pastry? Let me know down in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this one, click over here. Subscribe to the channel, click right here. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.